Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I am Gary, your host. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. Well, if you followed me watched my videos for any length of time, you know I like to latch on to some of the unusual and the less known stuff of comicdom and independent publishers and the like. So that's what we've got here this time. I'm going to take a look at Doggone Frog is back. Take a look at this book. It's an oversized trade paperback of More Poetry Comics. It's called More because this is, I think, the second of three. This is an Capella books by Dave Morice, or maybe it's pronounced Morice. From this unusual spelling, it looks like it could be pronounced either way. More Poetry Comics, Abuse the Muse, featuring the adventures of Whitman, Nursery Rhyme-O-Rama, Emily Dickinson's True Romance. And here we have this spacey-looking character who is obviously William Shakespeare shooting a ray gun at a flaming monster. And they're both giving Shakespeare quotes. A hit, a very palpable hit. It says, out, out, brief candle. And yeah, it's poetry. Now, I like poetry. I've been interested in poetry for decades, but it's also been decades since I've really been able to read much, let alone try to even write any poetry. But I like it. And I do have favorite poets. My two favorite poets are Walt Whitman and Sylvia Plath. And you can see Whitman is in this one. Unfortunately, there's no Sylvia Plath in it. Okay. And this is, like I said, from Capella Books by Dave Morice or Morice. It's a book adapting various poems or parts of poems to comic format. And this is the second of three books. And Dave Morice, I'll just pronounce it that way for convenience, born in 1946. And in 1977, he was He was an American visual artist and writer and educator. He has published books under various names. His work includes 60 poetry marathons, poetry comics, the Wooden Nickel Art Project, and others. He's the founder of the Actualist Poetry Movement. So as you can see, just in his background, his emphasis is on poetry. Comics and cartooning are apparently secondary to that, but he combines the two. And I'm sure it helps expand the interests, to some who just might be interested for the comics aspect. Help expand their one's appreciation and or knowledge of poetry. He was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and he wrote illustrated rhyme poetry for his mother at the age of 6. In high school, he created comic strips and books. So his love and interest in comics and cartooning goes back, and seems to have always been hand in hand with his love of poetry. And his first book-length work was The Idiot and the Oddity. And he He earned a BA in English from St. Louis University in '69 and moved to Iowa City to attend University of Iowa Writers Workshop, where he got getting an MFA in '72 and an MA in '86. He taught at the University of Iowa for 8 years as associate editor of Sactor House, I think is that what they called it? Sactor House Media. And he publishes, oh, I read that wrong. As associate editor of Sactor House Media, he publishes books by and about disabilities. And he has been called the P.T. Barnum of poetry. And I can kind of see why. Because he seems to really be a showman as far as poetry is concerned. But is it as an English major, English professor, that he does that, or is he a poet in his own right? I don't know. I guess he is to some extent. Because he did some of that stuff when he was a kid, even. So, let's have a look here. I said this is an oversized trade paperback. You can see poetry comics. It has here dedications and acknowledgments, and shows permission that he got from the poets or estates for the more recent stuff. Got permission to use them in his books. This book is dedicated to the first million people who read it. And I think this is probably saying, yeah, because I'm hoping to get 1 million people to read it. But you can see how it starts off. The whole list of, each one of these is a poem or fragment. It starts with the story of poetry comics. So, like I said, this is the second of 3 books, and I've never seen the other 2. And the story of poetry comics, in the beginning was the word poetry. And he uses, he has at least some skills. His style is more of an underground nature, but he utilizes different stylizations and styles and techniques, depending on what is his interpretation of the poem he's using. Campbell's Primordial Soup. And he probably stuck a can of Campbell's tomato soup or something right there in front of him and drew that. and he draws on other sources as well. Like here, talking about in the age of dinosaurs, Tyrannosaurus Rex created epics. I sing, O muse, of a pterodactyl. His heart was brave. His skin was tactile. But you see here, these are swipes for these dinosaurs from some of the older interpretations of dinosaurs from children's books from the 50s and 60s, about dinosaurs. And like I said, each one is done differently. And this is broken up into sections. Classics, and yeah, classics. This here is from olden times. And like I said, different techniques. It looks like he just dropped some ink and splat and went from there. To the Reader by Ben Jonson. Pray thee, take care that takest my book in hand, to read it well, that is, to understand. Where's that thing? I'm not going to read them all. The T.W.A. Corby's. Again, you see a change in technique for what he thinks it calls for. And from Shakespeare, Ariel's song, where the bee sucks, there suck I. And then, of course, the classic, the bit of Shakespeare that everyone knows, to be or not to be. and it is a fine, relatively detailed drawing of that gun, distorted as it is, but then certain looseness to the background. So the gun is fairly tight, and then the background which is just shading, is very, very loose. See, look at that. Rose-cheeked Laura. His art technique varies depending on the... Here's a real interesting looking one. The Siren Song by William Browning of Tavistock. And it's just, since it has the line, "Save our lips," the whole thing is just imprints of lips. So it shows his creativity and innovation. This is some neat and some really detailed type stuff here. And I want to go to, again, a very much looser style, more juvenile type styles, you know. And that's got to be difficult when you're capable of doing something much more more tightly and more realistically, even though he is limited, to also be able to do something as loose as this. And here, something derived from I think it's derived from a clip art figure, and then altered. And here we go. This is one, because this is my favorite Walt Whitman. But it is The Adventures of... It's a bard, it's a poet, it's Whitman. Words from Leaves of Grass. This is my favorite poetry book, and there's so many different versions, because he kept... Now, in Leaves of Grass, it was his lifelong work. Because when he started, it was a slim volume, and it was always self-published. And he would add new poems to it, and change some of his older poems, and it kept growing. It said, Walt Whitman, a cosmos of Manhattan, the sun. Now this is actually from one of his poems. I like this. Turbulent, fleshy, sensual, eating, drinking, and breeding. No sentimentalist, no stander above men and women or apart from them. No more modest than immodest. Unscrew the locks from their doors. Unscrew the doors themselves from their jambs. From Pomanoc starting, I fly like a bird. See, this is where it gets into the superhero aspect of it. And it's like he's on an adventure, but it's some of the stuff going on in the panels is reflected in the lines of poetry. Speeding through space, speeding through heaven and the stars, speeding amid the 7 satellites and the broad ring and the diameter of 80,000 miles, speeding with tailed meteors, throwing fireballs like the rest. I tread day and night such roads. And you can see is more air, and it looks like a standard superhero type adventure, but it's all poetry. And then here we get to the part, I sing the body electric, probably his best known line, largely due to Ray Bradbury pulling that line for the title of one of his most famous stories, which has become even better known because of the Twilight Zone adventure, I Sing the Body Electric. And it just so happens, the day that I was reading this a few days ago, I read this poem, and that evening I just happened to watch that episode of The Twilight Zone, and they quote lines from this poem in that episode. I sing the body electric, the armies of those I love and girth me, armies of those who girth me, and I engirth them. They will not let me off till I go with them. Respond to them, corrupt them, and charge them with the full charge of the soul. Oh, I kind of get chills. I love Whitman. So there's another page. It said, "Oh, take my hands, Walt Whitman. Will you seek afar off? The earth, that is sufficient. I do not want the constellations any nearer. Still, here I carry my old, ridiculous burdens. I swear it is impossible for me to get rid of them." And again, still, it takes a certain good imagination to be able to take these lines of poetry and do a comic book superhero parody, and yet have the panels reflecting what is going on in the lines. "The main shapes arise, shapes of democracy, total results of centuries, shapes bracing the earth. What do you see, Walt Whitman? I see the great round wonder rolling through space." That's good stuff. Enough of that, though. Then we are on to Emily Dickinson. Now here his work changes again to modern poetry romance. That's what it says right there. And this is in parody of the romance comics. "I bring an unaccustomed wine to lips long parched, next to mine, and summon them to drink. We never know how high we are till we are called to rise." And you see he's drawn from panels and or covers of some classic 50s, 60s, probably 60s and 70s romance comics, not unlike Roy Lichtenstein. And all the dialogue balloons are all filled with lines of her poetry. "Nor could I rise with you because your face would put out Jesus. We like March. His shoes are purple. He is new and high. It dropped so low in my regard, I heard it hit the ground. There must be guests in Eden. All the rooms are full." Then it goes on to, I don't want to lose that one. And just like a little gag cartoon. It's untitled. "Sing me a song of a lad that is gone. Say, could that lad be I?" Robert Louis Stevenson. And then it has a section on nursery rhymes. And it derived the image, of course, from nursery rhymes. "There was a crooked man in the..." See, again, reflecting the lines. "There was a crooked man, and he walked a crooked mile. He found a crooked sixpence against a crooked stile. He bought a crooked cat, which caught a crooked mouse, and they all lived together in a crooked little house. Oh no, don't let the rain come down." I couldn't help it. "Little Miss Muffet." Now this is interesting. "The Queen of Hearts," not the song. The Queen of Hearts, she made some tarts all on a summer's day. And this is derived from, it's paste up, cut and paste. I think there's another one in here I missed. I wanted to show that was cut and paste. But from playing cards. Isn't that neat? And there was another one back here. I think, where was that? I thought I had it. Maybe it's in this section. That could be. And then have modern poetry by, see, "The Red Wheelbarrow" by William Carlos Williams. "So much depends on a red wheelbarrow, glazed with rainwater, beside the white chickens." Just a simple little one page, and again, very, very loosely done. Something that reflects the need. Again, look, cut and paste stuff. Interesting. The one I wanted isn't here. It's all done. "The Hollow Men." Does it say starring T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound, and a cast of thousands of academics. Coming soon. Oh, it's an ad, fake ad. They've come from a galaxy far, far away to turn the Earth into a wasteland. They are the Hollow Men. Yeah, birds. Done like a noir detective story. Where's? Well, I don't find it. Again, something new, different. The jungle. The dog has hands like a man. Oh, Terrence Winch, Gerald Burns, Josephine Clare, and it would even on the back cover. Yippee! Or praise for poetry comics. And as you can see, it was. This is something if one has never been interested in poetry, but likes comics, this could be a good introduction to poetry for you. Because it spans the gamut. Oh well, I have blathered a lot longer than I intended to on this, showing you this, but I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Do leave your comments down below. Said, I hate poetry. That sucks. Well, tell me that. Said, oh, I love poetry, and I love comics. This is a good combination of my two loves. Or said, I love comics, but I hate poetry. But this might be a good introduction to poetry for me. Anything like that, any and all of that, let me know in the comments below. And remember, commentary, comics as well as poetry are art.